Thank you very much. Member for Fong Lim.
Madam Speaker, I rise tonight to pay tribute to some of the musical institutions and contributors towards those musical institutions of the Northern Territory. These are people that are often pretty unrecognised, largely volunteers, and they operate in the background, and they're all the people that spend so much time at the events we take for granted, make them possible. Tireless hours of rehearsals, of work, of practice. I have relatively few schools in my electorate of Fong Lim, but I'm fortunate that one of them is the Haileybury Rendall School, and I had the good fortune to attend their production of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the Willy Wonka production. And I went along to it for a bit of a lark and because I thought I should show my face, and I've got to be honest with you, it was amazing. Like, it was amazing. I was sat there and I was thinking to myself, things have changed a lot since I was at school, but it really was such a high-quality, high-calibre production. And honestly, hats off to everybody that was involved with it. Specifically, I make note of the production team: Alona Martin, Felicity Pearson, Wakey Lee, Emma McDonald, Rebecca Thomas, Chloe Wathold, Alyssa Unman, Tennille Brown, Rebecca Adams, John Robbins, Robert Barker, Red Jennings, Marianne Foster, Anne McMaster, Karen Archibald, Christian Kundig, Nick Eddy and Matt McKenna, Lisa Cadd, Eva Sasanto, Arabella Free and Vicky Tilbrook. There were a lot of people involved in this production, and I wouldn't dare try and name-check everybody in the cast and company and backstage crew. But I would say that to the young man who played Grandpa Joe, you stole the show just quietly, and it was fantastic. And also to the 9 young student musicians who played in the pit orchestra with a bunch of professional musicians. That is seriously heavy lifting. It was, you know, really quality stuff. So to the 9 young members of the pit orchestra as well, I thought you were absolutely superb, and I really, really enjoyed the music. On a much larger scale, I also had the opportunity to attend the Beat Festival back in September, and I have a weak spot for these things. I was involved in about 10 of them when I was a kid, and I would name check all the schools that are involved in them, but for the fact that we would be naming every public school in the Northern Territory and all the schools that all of you are going to name on this fine evening as well. Again though, so much work goes into our schools' productions, and I make note of the production team again of Bill Grose, Renita McNeil, Gillian Somerville, Angelina Tam, Jade Tideman, Natalie Chin, Matthew Sutton, Lindsay Seeley, Megan Atfield, Elspeth Carnegie, Todd Williams, Brune Wackett, Josh Grant, Rod Ballum, Samuel Gulliver, Helene Sweatman, Ben Sallandon, Kiefer Lewis, Samuel Gulliver, Todd Williams, Brian Cullen, Dan Davies, Josh Batten, Iona Francis, Tom Lydiard, Peter Colladi, Brian West, Nico Wijon, Neil McKnight, Tiffany Jansen, Julianne Osborne, Nick Yates, Jack Tinapple, David Stevens, Sue Ward, Alicia Chen and Jesse Aguilando. There are just so many people involved in these productions. I mean, there were 4 amazing hosts, there were a great number of phenomenal soloists. Simply shouting out the choreography teams would take up most of my time today, to say nothing of naming every single school. I think it is worth reflecting on, though, that the Beat has run now for 45 years and now is running also in Alice Springs and in Katherine. And I think that's an amazing thing and something really worth supporting and acknowledging and recognising. The choral teachers that teach all the kids all that music never get a shout out, and they spend 1 billion hours getting everybody up to speed. So to those choral teachers, Jennifer Putland, Peter Bartley, Martha Tozer, Shana Crockett, Katie Denham, Alex Bowers, Kylie Flanders, Rebecca Clark, Nicole Gadd, Derek Robinson, Natalie Jacobs, Amelia Barling, Sarah McKeever, Layla Bale, Jordana, Jack, Chris Wakelist, Catherine Gray, Lauren Hoffmeyer, Francesca Massey, Alicia Gow, Bridget Donald, Patrina Dow, Cecilia Gregory, Sian Edison, Lita Smith, Liz Latimer, Rachel Birkin, Matthew Lotherington, Andrew King, Michelle Olnut, Jonathan Graham, Judy Morgan, Comey Dorian, Sarah Benhart, Xanthi Flower, Kylie Worthy, Rula Thomas, Fiona Wolfe, Rhiannon Horn, Yvette Arala, Tricia Gilbert, Penthea Carmichael, Nicole Robson and Megan Anfield. Thank you. That's just the teachers. Think about how many kids had to get taught to sing those songs. So I'm really grateful to all of the people that put on the beat production and continue to give it all the time in the day. The original choral teacher for all of them was Nora Lewis AM, who I've made mention of because she's such a dear mentor to me. And again, I thank all the people in the Darwin Chorale, without whom we'd have no national anthems at Remembrance Day, without which we'd have no carols at Carols by Candlelight at the end of this week. And these are the people in the background, as I say, doing a lot of the heavy lifting. And just from Remembrance Day to Angelina Aquino, Debbie Barnett, Kate Bedard, Trish Chin, Kelly Carney, Andrew Edwards, Pam Hibbard, David Hibbert, Michelle Jarrett, Vivian Kleeman, Robin McGilvray, Chris Obbs, Michael Quinn, Kathy Stoll, Carolyn Thompson, and Kil McWilliams. Thank you for making that possible for us. I will duly run out of time trying to cover all of what I wanted to cover tonight, but I wanted to point out that the Darwin Symphony Orchestra worked with the Darwin Chorale in the not too recent past on their Heroes concert, doing a whole lot of film score music. And again, they are taking the music to the people. Imagine what our Northern Territory would be without the orchestra. And next year they'll be on the road, they'll be touring throughout, Darwin, Alice, Catherine, Tennant, as they did for years in the past. And I would love to shout out the entire orchestra, but I'm not going to get the opportunity today to stay within time. I would just point out Jethro Llewellyn, who's an example of a young man in the Darwin Symphony Orchestra, who's still at school, who recently made it to the Australian Youth Orchestra, and that is a real achievement. That doesn't happen very often. And what something like the Darwin Symphony Orchestra does is give people the opportunity to cut their teeth at a high level when they're young. And those opportunities are really invaluable. Another one of the people from the Darwin Symphony Orchestra in the past, who now runs the Arafura Music Collective, Clare Kilgraff, recently was taking what is ostensibly real art music to the people, playing in Grey Community Hall in the NT Supreme Court. And I think it's just amazing that we have these musicians willing to put in the time to provide the backdrop to all the events that we attend. I would be remiss in not mentioning Martin Jarvis, Darwin's original maestro, who set up the Darwin Symphony Orchestra and under whose auspices I played a long time ago as well. I congratulate him on his screening of Mozart's Sister, the documentary built on his research regarding the work of the Mozart sister. I had the good fortune of being on the Territory Muster Tour with the Darwin Symphony Orchestra back in 1994 when Martin Jarvis was conducting it. And one of the other people that was on that tour was a guy called Mark Smith, who's a phenomenal percussionist and drummer who you see around town, but also was my roommate on that tour. And all these years later is now the head of Music NT. And the reason I mention that is because no speech of mine goes without mentioning something economic, of course. And I would encourage you all to have a look at the work that they had commissioned through the University of Tasmania, which looks at the economic and cultural value of live music in the Northern Territory, which is really phenomenal. We get an enormous amount of economic return on our investment for having live music to support all our festivals and programs. The Northern Territory Music School, under the auspices of Bill Grose, do phenomenal work. And from the fledgling days of the Darwin Combined Schools Concert Band, they now have multiple orchestras that they run. And last week I had the good fortune to watch the end-of-year concerts for the Capo, Moto and Apogee ensembles. And I just can't overstate the value of public music education, not just to create musicians, but to create people who perform better academically. It was one of the real jewels in the crown of the Northern Territory education system, and I hope with time that we can, polish that jewel to be what it should be as well. Finally then, I will probably have the highlight of my week tomorrow when at lunchtime I get to go and join in Stuart Park Primary School's school band and do what I can in the trombone section under the baton of Natalie Chin and Genevieve Mann from the music school and under the auspices of Sylvia Siskamanis and the principal Leisha Crompton, who bizarrely enough I also went to a music camp with about 1 billion years ago. There are just so many musical institutions that I would love to shout out if I could. The Hot and Cold Big Band every week at the Darwin Railway Club with all the dancers, providing life and vitality to our city year round. Look, in closing, I'll simply say I could pick from a million quotes, but in the words of Plato, music is a moral law. It gives a soul to the universe, wings to the mind, flight to the imagination, a charm to sadness, gaiety, and life to everything. I thank all the hard-working musicians, musical institutions of the Northern Territory that provide life, colour, gaiety and the backdrop to all the events that we are able to participate in. Thank you, Madam Speaker.